So, that's an issue too, because are they say because they basically Keegan Klein has said that they believe his father did it. So, or are they simply going down different avenues? Do certain investigators believe it was Tony Klein, other investigators believe it's Ron Logan, or do they believe they were somehow working together? And again, where does Kurtz fit into all of this? So let's look at a rebuttal here, basically, to those who believe it's Ron Logan. This is on the Delphi Murders subreddit, posted by Mount Georgia Guy. Let's not get carried away about the Ron Logan warrant. Posted part of this last night in another forum, we have to remember this information is new to us, not law enforcement. My takeaways from the warrant and other info we know from the Keegan Klein investigation. 1. This is a peek into law enforcement's investigation similar to the warrants and questioning of Keegan Klein. Don't take it for anything more than a POI being looked into during the investigation. 2. Similar to Keegan Klein and Tony Klein, most of the links to Ron Logan are circumstantial. Tip on looking like bridge guy, violent past with females, etc. Not enough for a DA to feel comfortable about getting a conviction. Okay. 3. Ron Logan's request for an alibi during the time of the abduction and murders is interesting. He was not concerned about other times he was driving and wanting an alibi for those, so this is very suspect. That's one of the most suspect points. So he's calling somebody right before the bodies are found. Unless does he know they're going to be found because he knows where they are at that time? It's kind of weird. Would his first thought be? Yeah, I can't. Yeah, the timeline here. This is tough to get over because would someone's so these teenagers, they're not like 5-year-olds, okay? So they are teenagers. So these early teenagers, these super young teenagers, go missing the night before. Is everyone's first thought that they're going to turn up murdered, or is the thought, okay, maybe they went to a party, maybe they got lost? So what's the worst case scenario in everybody's mind? They got lost and got hurt and maybe died. Right? What is everybody thinking? Is everybody thinking there's a murderer on the loose? Like, what's the first thought when teenagers go missing in a wooded area in the woods? They either went to go party or they got lost. Is anybody really thinking the most likely scenario is that there's a killer on the loose? So why would Ron Logan need an alibi? Because even if they got lost and got hurt and possibly died somehow and it's not murder, why would he need an alibi? And why would he think that he would even need an alibi? Because what if they were at a party and they came back and everything was fine? Why is he requesting an alibi? 4, as with Keegan Klein and other suspects, DNA must have not matched, or the DNA is too tainted to use, or they don't have the killer's DNA. 5, the text messages and phone call the day of the murders is interesting and seems the text provided more exact locations. The phone call could possibly act as an alibi if there was an exact location. Assumes Ron Logan couldn't get from his house to the bridge in roughly 4 minutes. Does anyone know how cell service is on the trail? But they said that Ron Logan's cell phone did ping in the area, which puts him in the area at the time of the abduction, approximately. Unless someone stole Ron Logan's phone and dressed up as Ron Logan. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Would a 77-year-old, even if he's a domestic violence abuser, whatever, would he just randomly decide to kill people? And put their bodies on his own property? And knowing himself, he's 77, but, he can't be that dumb. 2017, people know you can triangulate data, GPS data from cell phones. I don't know. This is all very weird. 6, we have a better understanding of the complexity of the case. Animal hair request in warrant. See below for more on this. Ron Logan having connections to Garrett Kurtz. And possibly Tony Klein. People believing Ron Logan was capable. 7, coincidences will happen, but everything outlined in this warrant and the Keegan Klein warrant is almost too many coincidences. That's why I'm choosing to look at Ron Logan, Keegan Klein, Garrett Kurtz, and others as POIs, and understanding law enforcement needs that one piece of evidence to bring the case to a head. 8. The warrant mentioning animal hair likely confirms the past rumor. In my experience with warrants, this would not be in the boilerplate language and seems to have been added at the end of the standard list. I'll defer to Indiana attorneys whether it's standard in this part of the state. 9. Don't make too much of the request for pictures, videos, cameras, computer, and device evidence. This is very typical standard, and the request was made based on the agent's experience and likely staging. It does not establish a video or picture taken. Here's an interesting theory proposed by Dorkin B. What if Ron Logan led the girls down the hill where the two others were waiting in the brush? Would explain maybe the lack of struggle and screaming, as it was almost a surprise as they got down there. Ron Logan just kept on his way to his property and inside while the perpetrators did their thing. It's a reach, but just trying to think outside the box, I guess. So would that be Ron Logan on the video? Would that be Ron Logan's voice?
Down the hill. 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 Down the hill.
And yet he was not the one who physically murdered them, but he knew about it. Also, another interesting point that people have made a big deal about in the past is who could walk that sketchy bridge, the Monon High Bridge, with their hands in their pockets and not a care in the world. Would it be the guy that lived right there, that had made that walk so many times, so many years? He could literally do it with his hands in his pockets and his eyes closed. I mean, I don't think enough has been mentioned about that. Who would be more comfortable walking that bridge than Ron Logan? I mean, maybe one of the flannel shirt guy. One of the guys that, people that walk the trail every single day. But if we're gonna, Ron Logan's right there. How many times, does anybody know how many times Ron Logan has crossed that bridge? Some people reference that Tony Klein might have possibly hunted on Ron Logan's property before, but that has not been confirmed. So, if the true perpetrators or murderers are friendly with Ron Logan, and Ron Logan, I don't know, maybe Ron Logan didn't know that they were going to kill the girls. If someone paid Ron Logan money, they were just going to rough him up, either in connection to Derek German's drug business or not. If Liberty German was planning on going to the police with some kind of information, either on Keegan Klein, whatever, if Keegan and his father, or Kurtz, Ashley Garth, whoever, if they were just going to rough up the girls, and maybe Ron Logan is okay with that. Maybe Ron Logan's not okay with killing people, but he's okay with roughing up teenagers for a certain percentage of money. Maybe they even weren't going to rough them up. Maybe they were just going to scare them, and that's what they told Logan. Things went horribly wrong. The perpetrators could have theoretically went into Logan's house, right, and got cleaned up. Possibly. Or if they had that car in the driveway on the other side, which nobody really talks about anymore, that driveway there, they could have just got in the car with bloody clothes, and nobody saw that, went somewhere else, did a really good cleanup job. Or maybe they did use the inside of Logan's house. What is he going to say? No? Because then they're going to implicate him. And that would also explain why he wouldn't blow the whistle on them. Okay, so let's round this out with the most damning piece of info and more details. So the time that Ron Logan called his cousin was 9:20 a.m. on February 14th, so a number of hours before the bodies were found. So this is a post by Calm Yourself, Ayago. The part that gets me. I agree with people who are saying we should not get carried away with the newly revealed document concerning Ron Logan. With that said, there is one single piece of evidence, piece of the document that has me thinking more than anything else. I'll describe that thought below. Please help me out if anything I say is incorrect. Ron Logan contacted his cousin by phone 9:20 a.m. February 14th. This was the day after the murder and hours before the bodies were discovered. During this phone call, he asked his cousin to lie to police by telling them that he came to his house on February 13th between 2 and 2:30 p.m. to drive him to an aquarium store. What is disturbing to me is the specificity of the time range that Logan instructed his cousin to tell the police. In my mind, this is the best evidence that Ron Logan was involved in this crime. If Ron Logan was not involved, how would he know to cover his ass within the literal 30-minute window of the murder that took place 1,400 feet from his property, allegedly? I am not convinced that he did the actual killings, but I now believe at the very least he knew about the murders and was directly connected to them. I know he didn't want to get jammed up with the parole violation, but it doesn't show how he knew to be covered from 2 to 2:30 p.m. on the day of the crime. It also seems like the police and or FBI were deeply concerned by this as well. With all that said, I think law enforcement's best bet is finding a connection between Ron Logan and the Kleins. I also still don't think that Kurtz and Garth need to be let off the hook here. I mean, they're known criminals. They're known criminals, so come on. Couple more points here. Ron Logan was supposedly questioned by law enforcement on the night of the 13th. But again, questioned how? Did you see the girls? Okay. I mean, there's missing and possibly lost girls. Why would he immediately jump? I mean, it's kind of weird. So if he knew they weren't found by 9:30 the next morning, but here's the thing, how did he know that? It's not like he would have, if they were found, it's not like there'd be this immediate bulletin. I mean, again, was everybody's first thought that they were killed? It's kind of weird. Some follow-up posts here, but the fish store receipt was for 5:21, and the footage from the dump was between 11:30 and 12 noon. The clock on the video was off, so it listed 2 times. I can't remember what they were. So why did he say between 2 and 2:30 p.m. to his cousin when his phone pinged near or around his home and the bridge around 2 p.m.? That is kind of weird. Huh. So here's another mind-shocking detail from the rumor mill. Supposedly, Ron Logan had a house guest at that time. Some other man who was having problems with his wife? Was that the rumor? So who is this guy? And then we do also, if you've checked out the witness, if you've checked out the Mr. X podcast, again, supposedly a former mayor parked his truck not too far from Ron Logan's. It would be curious if this was Logan's house guest. I don't believe it was, just due to all of this other information, but... So let's look, I mean, Obviously, we also don't know what law enforcement found or didn't find in his house and other information they have. Is it possible they knew more than one individual was involved, so they wanted to lull Logan by so-called announcing that he was cleared, if that was true? I mean, that's been reported in numerous places, but because they wanted to see any kind of activity with other individuals, monitoring his phone activity, eyes on him to see if he interacted with the other guilty parties. An interesting post here by Upbeat Business 3371. There are too many similarities between Ron Logan and Bridge Guy to dismiss. Exact same build. Ron Logan is seen wearing several items during his TV interviews that are almost identical to Bridge Guy's clothes. Same color hat with the same dent in the same place. His shoes are very similar as well. His jacket looks almost exactly like what Bridge Guy was wearing, and he even had the collar flipped up a bit like Bridge Guy. His jeans are almost identical as well. Even Ron Logan's walk and the limp. It's actually creepy. The more I watch the interviews very closely and then go back and closely watch Bridge Guy videos, even his voice is very similar. Could it all be coincidence, also given the fact he lied about his whereabouts and asked someone to lie for him to cover the exact time frame that the murders took place? I'd bet everything I have it was Ron Logan after seeing all of this. I mean, the only thing, again, that doesn't make sense to me is why would he do it right on his property? I mean, and why would he put the bodies there? The only way he would do... I mean, is he really that up there in age that this was a bucket list type of thing and he didn't care if he got caught for it? I mean, is that a possibility? How often do people in their late 70s just decide to become a murderer because they don't care at that point? or they think they're going to die. I mean, supposedly he was in good health, though, so that doesn't make sense. Because if he's in that good health and good shape, I mean, why? There's something that doesn't make sense here, which is why I introduced the McGuire theory, where regardless of his level of involvement, someone else... Did he have a feeling somebody would implicate him? Not necessarily that they were going to stage the bodies on his property, though. Maybe he didn't believe they were going to do that, but he believed that they would blow the whistle on him, which is why he's setting up the alibi. He would obviously also know the lay of the land extremely well. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. If the girls were really killed inside a building, that would definitely muffle a lot of sound. Someone posted this regarding why the cousin finally broke their silence on the alibi. Here's an interesting post by FT Throwaway 123. Cousin probably realized the severity of the situation and either had a moral crisis or was afraid to be dragged into a murder investigation, or maybe both. I don't know if it's my own brother, father, husband, son, etc. If someone I know was being investigated for murdering 2 children, and their bodies were found on his property, and he asked me to give him an alibi for the specific window of time which they were murdered, which he somehow knew before the bodies were ever found, I'm telling the police the truth. I couldn't live with myself having any part of covering something like that up. And that's a good point. Let's put ourselves in the shoes of the cousin. What are they thinking? This guy asked them for an alibi for the exact time that would later come out as the time of the alleged abduction and murder, and the bodies end up being on his property. I mean, what are you thinking if you're the cousin here? So what does everybody make of all of this new information of Ron Logan as a piece of the puzzle here? How do the Kleins fit in? How does Kurtz and Garth fit in? Does Chadwell figure into this? Because Chadwell, out of all the POIs, it's possible he's the least involved, right? Just based on all the information. I mean, even if he did happen to camp out in the area, compared to all of these other people, it seems like the stack of evidence against them are much greater than Chadwell or some of these other individuals. I'm still going to go over them. They've been requested. There's a few with some ties, but next to the Kleins and Logan, it just, and Kurtz and Garth, it seems like the pieces are there for them much more than others, but again, we don't know. Some people believe it's going to, when this is finally solved, it's going to turn out to be somebody not named and completely under the radar. And we'll see. Hopefully this thing gets solved very, very soon, and the awareness is kept up. As always, if you find the MindShock podcast interesting and informative, want to help support the podcast, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. And make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications, like and share Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Patrons do get priority for case topic, logical analysis, co-podcaster requests. You could also be a guest in the podcast, depending on your tier. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section. This is Bruce McGuire signing off. Catch you guys next time.